Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into a question that I think's been on a lot of people's minds lately.
Mm.
Could our world actually be a simulation?
Oh, yeah. Definitely a fascinating one.
You know, you shared that YouTube video, and it really digs into this whole simulation hypothesis thing and
Right.
some of the experiments that people are doing to try and prove it. I gotta say, it's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this idea has kind of gone from like science fiction
Yeah.
to a topic that scientists and philosophers are like actually seriously considering these days. It's pretty cool.
Totally. And the video doesn't mess around. It starts right off the bat
Yeah.
with that quote from Elon Musk,
Oh, right.
where he says there's like a 1 in billions chance
One in billions, yeah.
that we're in base reality.
Mm-hmm.
So basically he's saying it's way more likely that we're not in the original like ground level universe.
And what makes it even more interesting is that it's not just, like speculation anymore. Like when you look at the advancements in AI,
Yeah.
especially with these world-building simulations, like the one from OpenAI, it starts to make you think, like, okay, this isn't that far-fetched.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
If we can build complex virtual worlds, and now,
right?
imagine what a civilization thousands or even millions of years ahead of us could create.
Oh, for sure. I mean, just thinking about how much technology has changed even in our lifetime, It's crazy to think about the kind of computing power a super advanced civilization might have.
It's mind-boggling.
And the video kind of touches on this when it brings up Stephen Hawking's time traveler party.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
The famous experiment
Yeah,
where he threw a party,
right.
but only sent out the invitations after the party had already happened
Yeah.
to see if any time travelers would show up.
Such a clever idea.
Sadly, no RSVPs from the future.
Right. No time travelers.
You know?
But, what I thought was really cool was how the video connected this whole experiment to simulation theory.
Yeah, it's a really interesting connection, right? Like,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder if we could eventually create these super realistic simulations, wouldn't we also have the ability to kind of like manipulate time within them?
Yeah.
Like, if time travel becomes possible and we are living in a simulation, could someone just hit rewind on our world?
Whoa, now that's a scary thought.
It's a wild thought, isn't it?
And then the video brings up philosopher Nick Bostrom and his trilemma. It gets a little, philosophical here, but
A little pity.
yeah. But bear with me, it's really important to this whole thing.
Definitely. It's kind of the crux of the argument.
Okay, so
Bostrom's basically saying,
yeah.
if there's even like a small chance that a civilization could get to a point where they can create tons and tons of these like super realistic simulations,
Mm-hmm.
then the odds of us being in one of those simulations are actually way higher
Yeah.
than us being in the one original base reality, right?
Yeah.
It's like just by sheer numbers, there will be millions, billions, maybe even trillions of simulated realities.
Right.
Compared to just one, original.
So even if, like, the chances of a single civilization getting to that level of technology are low,
Right.
if you have enough civilizations out there, the probability starts to tip in favor of simulations existing.
Exactly, yeah. It's almost like buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Your individual chances are pretty slim.
Right.
But if millions of people are playing, someone's got to win eventually,
Right. Okay, that makes sense. But then this brings us to, like, I think maybe the biggest problem for this whole simulation hypothesis thing, consciousness.
Right.
If a civilization could create a world that looks and feels totally real, could they actually simulate consciousness?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I mean, how do you even code awareness into a program?
Yeah, it makes you wonder what consciousness even is.
Right. Is it just something our brains produce? Or is it like this fundamental part of the universe?
Some people believe it's an emergent property,
Okay.
meaning it kind of arises naturally from complex systems like our brains, while others think it's more fundamental, maybe even connected to the fabric of reality itself.
So are we talking about like a soul here? Is that something you'd have to like recreate in a simulation to make it truly real?
Well, the idea of a soul is definitely more of a philosophical question.
Okay.
And to be honest, we don't really have a scientific grasp on it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But even if we put the whole soul thing aside, just trying to simulate the sheer complexity of human thought and experience,
Yeah.
It's a massive undertaking. The video talked about this too, when it looks at the computing power you'd need to simulate an entire universe.
Yeah. It's insane.
It's crazy. Like, just thinking about all the calculations our brains are making every second. It's already an astronomical number.
Right.
And then you have to scale that up to include all the humans who've ever lived.
Right. It makes you wonder if there's even enough energy in the universe to run a simulation like that.
Right. It's mind-boggling.
Oh, what?
But some scientists, like Melvin Vopson, actually believe that, even something like a star-powered supercomputer could theoretically do it.
So, like, imagine harnessing the energy of an entire star
Yeah.
just to power this massive simulation.
Yeah, it's wild. And Vopson doesn't stop at just theory either. He's actually trying to find proof that we are in a simulation.
Yeah. That's the crazy part, right?
Guys looking for bugs or glitches in our reality.
Okay.
Kind of like finding errors in computer code.
So, like, signs that things aren't as seamless as they seem.
Exactly. But how do you even go about finding a glitch in the fabric of reality? It's like trying to find a typo in the blueprint of the universe.
Right. That's a tough one.
So Vopson's approach is pretty interesting. He thinks that all those fundamental particles, the building blocks of everything,
Mm-hmm.
actually contain hidden information, like little bits of code that make up the operating system of our world.
Wait, so you're saying even, like, tiny particles have their own little sets of instructions, like mini programs running inside them?
Exactly, like a hidden code that's running everything.
Okay, I'm following you.
And he believes that if we smash these particles together, like in a collider experiment, and study the energy that gets released, we might be able to decipher these hidden bits of information.
Whoa. So it's like he's trying to hack into the universe by smashing atoms together.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty wild idea.
Yeah.
And this is where the video starts to get really mind-blowing for me.
Yeah.
It connects this idea that, maybe our perception of reality is way more limited than we realize.
Right.
It's like that saying, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And they make this really interesting comparison to dreams. Like when you dream,
Mm-hmm.
you experience all these vivid, seemingly real scenarios,
Right.
even though it's really just electrical signals in your brain.
Right. And it feels so real in the moment. And then
Yeah.
you wake up and you're like, wait, what just happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what if our waking reality is just a more elaborate and persistent form of dreaming? Like, are we all just brains in a jar hooked up to some cosmic supercomputer?
Okay, now you're freaking me out a little bit.
It's a bit of a freaky thought, right? But this idea actually ties into Vopson's concept of a pixelated reality.
Okay, a pixelated reality.
Yeah, so think of a computer screen, right?
Hmm.
If you zoom in close enough,
Yeah.
you start to see those individual pixels,
Right.
the tiny building blocks of the image. So Vopson's suggesting that our reality might be structured similarly, where everything breaks down to these tiny bits of information, just like pixels.
So instead of reality being this, like, smooth, continuous flow, it's actually more like a super high-resolution digital image.
Exactly. Like a giant, super detailed computer screen.
That's a pretty wild way to think about it. Makes you wonder about, like, what it means to live in a world built on information.
That's where things get even more interesting. The video brings up a fascinating area of science that might actually hold some clues. Quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics. Okay, now we're really going down the rabbit hole here. Isn't that the realm of, like, subatomic particles and all those mind-bending paradoxes?
Exactly. The weird and wonderful world of quantum mechanics.
All right, well, I'm ready. Break this down for me. What's quantum mechanics got to do with this simulation idea?
So one of the most perplexing things in quantum mechanics is this phenomenon called entanglement.
Entanglement. Okay, I've heard that word before, but I'm not sure I really get it.
It's definitely a head scratcher. Imagine you have two particles, right?
Okay.
And they're linked in this way that completely defies our normal understanding of physics.
I'm intrigued.
No matter how far apart these particles are, even light years away, if you change the state of one of them, the other one instantly changes its state too. It's like they're communicating faster than the speed of light.
Whoa, that's insane.
It's crazy, right? Like they're linked by some invisible thread.
It's like they're two parts of the same code instantly updating each other, no matter where they are in the program. So are you saying that quantum entanglement could be evidence that our reality is running on some kind of cosmic program?
It's a compelling possibility. After all, in a computer program, distance is kind of an illusion. 2 points in the code can be linked no matter how far apart they appear in the simulated world.
So maybe these entangled particles are like glitching out and showing us the underlying code of our reality, like revealing that the rules of our universe are more flexible than we think.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? that maybe the universe is playing by a different set of rules than we're used to.
This is blowing my mind, and it makes you wonder, if our world is a simulation, why was it created? What's the point of it all?
Right. The video even suggests that the universe designer, if you will, might have goals and constraints, just like a game developer.
So, like, they're running an experiment, observing how life evolves under certain conditions.
Possibly. Or maybe they're just entertained by our struggles and triumphs, like some kind of cosmic reality TV show.
Or maybe they're just bored cosmic beings, you know,
Yeah.
looking for some entertainment. But the video also makes a good point about some of the unique things that led to life on Earth.
Right.
It talks about how the moon formed and the Earth's tilt and all these events that had to happen just right for life to flourish.
Yeah, it's a lot of cosmic coincidences.
It's almost too perfect, like someone set the stage for us.
It does make you wonder, are we witnessing the unfolding of some grand design, or is it all just a series of random events?
Right.
It's really fascinating to think that even if we are living in a simulation, we might never be able to perceive anything outside of it.
Like we're trapped in the Matrix.
Yeah, kind of like that.
So we're like those video game characters, totally oblivious to the fact that there's a whole world beyond the game they're in.
Exactly. Imagine you're a character in like a super sophisticated virtual world.
Okay.
You experience everything is completely real.
Right.
And you wouldn't even be aware of the code that's dictating, your every maze. You're just living your life in the game.
That's trippy. It makes you wonder, if we can't escape the simulation, does it even matter if it's real or not?
Oh, good question.
Like, if our experiences and emotions feel real, does the underlying nature of reality even matter?
Right. It really makes you think about what we even mean when we say reality.
It really does. And it makes you question free will, too, doesn't it? Like, if there's some cosmic programmer out there pulling the strings, do we really have any control over our choices?
That's a big one. The question of consciousness and free will in a simulated world. Like, are we just lines of code playing out a predetermined script, or do we have genuine agency?
Yeah. Like, are we puppets or puppeteers, or maybe some weird combination of both? And if we are living in a simulation, what's the point of it all?
Right. Like, why would someone create this?
Is it all just a giant cosmic experiment, or are we just entertainment for some higher being?
It's easy to get caught up trying to figure out, the motivations of these hypothetical creators.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that we're kind of applying our own human way of thinking to something that might be totally beyond our understanding.
Right. It's like we're trying to fit this cosmic puzzle piece into our little human puzzle.
Exactly. Like their purpose, if they even have one, could be something we can't even fathom.
Maybe they're just trying to create the perfect cup of coffee, and we're all just part of some elaborate taste test.
There's a simulation I'd sign up for. But seriously, the whole idea of a simulated reality really forces us to reevaluate our place in the universe.
Yeah.
It suggests that, what we consider real might be way more flexible than we think.
It's like the ultimate conspiracy theory. Except instead of shadowy government agencies, we're talking about hyper-intelligent beings controlling the fabric of existence itself.
And what makes it more than just a conspiracy theory is that it's something scientists and philosophers are legitimately investigating. They're actually trying to find ways to test the simulation hypothesis.
I know, and it makes you think, like, maybe one day we'll actually have proof that we're living in a giant computer program.
Imagine that headline.
Scientists confirm it's all just a game.
Right. That would break the internet.
Yeah, for sure. But even without concrete proof, just thinking about the possibility is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really shifts your perspective.
It makes you question everything.
Challenges our assumptions about reality, consciousness,
Yeah.
our place in the universe.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good reminder that there's still so much we don't know.
So much we don't know, and maybe so much we can't know. Like, if we're in a simulation, is it even possible to find, like, definitive proof? What if the programmers can just erase the evidence or tweak the code to hide it from us?
Ooh, now that's a mind-bending thought.
Right. It's like we're playing a video game,
Uh-huh.
but we can't access the developer console.
Exactly.
No matter how hard we try, we're stuck interacting with the world within the rules the game sets for us.
It's like we're looking for the edges of the map, but there might not be any.
Exactly. But even if there are limits to what we can know, I still think it's important to keep asking these questions. Just exploring these ideas can be valuable.
Totally. Like, it's not necessarily about finding all the answers.
Right.
It's about expanding our understanding of the universe,
Yeah.
even if it just leads to more questions.
It's like that saying, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing.
Love that quote.
The more we learn about the simulation hypothesis, the more we realize how much is still out there to discover.
Exactly. And this leads to a pretty crucial question. If we are living in a simulation, how should we live our lives? Does knowing this change anything?
Right. Like, do we just throw caution to the wind and say, nothing matters, it's all just a program anyway? I mean, it's kind of tempting, right? Like, if none of this is real in the traditional sense, why should we follow the rules?
Yeah, I get that. It's a natural reaction. But I don't think we should jump to nihilism just because we might be in a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
Even if our reality is simulated, our experiences, our emotions, all of that still has meaning within that reality.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
It's like, think about a video game. Even though it's not real in the same way as the physical world, the things you go through, the victories you achieve, the connections you make with other players,
Yeah.
those all have meaning in the context of the game, right?
That's a good point. It's like, even if you found out your favorite book was written by an AI, the story would still have the power to move you.
Exactly. And it's the same with our lives. Even if it turns out we're living in a simulation, those big questions about how to live a meaningful life,
Right.
those are still relevant. Our choices still matter. Our relationships still have value.
Yeah.
And our actions still have consequences, even if it's all within this simulated framework.
I like that. So it's not about whether the game is real, it's about how we choose to play it.
Exactly. And you know what? Thinking about the simulation hypothesis this way can actually be really empowering.
Really? How so? I feel like knowing we're just like lines of code would make me feel less real, less important somehow.
I hear you, but think about it this way. If we are simulated beings who are capable of all this consciousness, self-awareness, love, loss, all of it,
Mm-hmm.
that means whoever created our simulation did something absolutely incredible. They built a world where consciousness could emerge.
Wow,
A
yeah.
world with all its beauty and wonder and, yeah, even the tough stuff too.
So instead of feeling small, we should be amazed by the programmers who created us. Like, they must be super intelligent and powerful to pull something like this off.
It's a perspective that really highlights the potential of creation, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it does.
It makes you think that there are levels of reality and possibility that are beyond anything we can currently imagine. It's a pretty humbling thought, and it shows us just how much more there is to learn and discover.
It's like that feeling you get when you look up at the stars and realize how vast and mysterious the universe is. Like, we're
Yeah.
just this tiny speck in all of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also what makes us human. This desire to explore and understand is what pushes us to ask these big, mind-blowing questions. And whether or not we ever figure out for sure if we're in a simulation,
Right.
just the process of exploring these ideas is valuable in itself.
It makes us question what we think we know.
Absolutely. It encourages us to think critically and to appreciate the complexity and wonder of the universe,
Yeah.
whatever its true nature might be.
Well said. It's like the search for truth is more important than actually finding the answer.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I guess the question for our listeners is, what will you do with the knowledge that our reality might be far more complex and strange and wonderful than we ever imagined?
Keep questioning, keep exploring it. Who knows, maybe you'll find a glitch in the matrix.